Hello, hello. We're just going to take the first couple minutes to let everybody come in and join. It's so good to see your faces. So happy to be here. Happy Monday. How are we doing today? How are we feeling?
Is my
Doing
box.
good.
Good. I'm super excited for this time here to share so many of the things that I've been working on and honing and perfecting for years in my business and with my clients. It's been a long journey, and hopefully we can collapse time a little bit for y'all, the little extra help. You don't need much of anything for today if you're going to take notes, obviously, whether you pull up something on your computer or grab something to write with, totally up to you, or don't take notes. You will get the replay. So you can go back. I also we'll be sending an email with the replay as well as the simplified CEO checklist, which is a file that you'll get. So you will have that. Give it probably maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for anybody who's coming in. Apparently, did all of you get emails with all the info and link? Because I had a bunch of people say no, and then some people said they were buried in their junk box.
Mine was in my junk box.
I don't know why, because I tested it and it worked for me, saying that it was going to their junk box, and I don't know why. I was like, listen, I know it's been a minute since I've sent some emails out, but but it's okay.
Kelly, which email is it? I just found one. Is the one for we start at 2 p.m. or is there another one?
There was I sent that one out today, but you should have gotten another one when you first signed up. And I don't know what happened to that one.
I don't think I got that one. I couldn't find it when I searched.
Even in your junk box? So weird.
In my junk box, the only one I got was the 2 p.m. today. But that was it. But it was in my junk. That one was in my junk. So, but I only looked because I was like, how do I get on? And I went to your Facebook and it said, check your junk. So
that's why I went there. Junk in your trunk. So weird that it went to spam and junk. Not sure why, but glad you guys are here. So I'm expecting that right. I mean, I had to say junk. It's the back end, right? The slow business back end. So any butt puns I can come up with, trust me, they will be inserted. So if you are not into that type of humor, you're in the wrong spot. Because I will make as many back end puns as I possibly can. But yeah, so I was not sure. I'm hopefully some people found the link and come today. So happy you guys are all here. And if it's a little bit of a small group today, that's fine. We'll figure out the email thing and we'll try and get the replay into everybody's main boxes. But because I don't like to waste time and we're all about efficiency here, the new email updates maybe messed with system, never got confirmation. Oh, potentially. Yes, because it's been a while since I have sent emails out, but it's totally okay. So let's just jump in. Let's start just by kind of grounding into the space. I always like to do this at the beginning of anything because we all kind of usually come in with a million other things happening. And if you're anything like me, you were sliding in at 2 o'clock while managing 100 other things. So let's just close our eyes and take a deep breath and just land in this space together. Just go ahead and begin to feel your body and the way that it's taking up space, the way that it's being supported by whatever it is that you're sitting on, your chair, your bed, your floor. And just noticing any places that maybe feel tight or uncomfortable. Also noticing any places that feel especially cozy or deliciously good. Just continue to take a couple of deep breaths in your own time, doing a body scan from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, seeing if there's anywhere that needs to be stretched or adjusted or rolled out, shaken. And just get yourself cozy. We're going to spend maybe about an hour here today talking about how we can make things feel better, how we can make things feel easier. And so if you want to set an intention with yourself for this space, to walk away with even maybe just one thing that will make your life and your business a little bit easier. And hopefully my goal is to make it so you walk away with a lot more than just one thing. But if you can make it your job to find one thing you can implement and integrate into your own life and business to make things feel just a little bit better, then we've spent our time well together today. So go ahead and take one more deep breath in and release it out and give yourself a little shake as you come back into reality, come back into the space, and we will dive in. So welcome to the Slow Business Back End. If you guys all know me on some level, I'm Kelly Mahalik. I am a business coach, and one thing that I have learned through working with people in their businesses in a variety of different ways, I do business coaching. I also do social media management and TikTok and short form video editing. And one thing that I've learned from being in people's businesses, my own included, and my clients from a lot of different angles is that one of the things that I see is that it's really easy for the business part to be like this mysterious thing of like, what's happening? And that can come from two places of either like, we're not really sure what's happening in the back end of the business, either because business is just not our forte, right? So many of us, we get into this work, right? We're coaches, we're healers, we are here to help people change their lives and live better. And we have these like very passion oriented missions. And that's why we start businesses. We do not start businesses because we're obsessed with business, right? We don't start businesses because like we really love accounting and bookkeeping and all of these other things and like making sure everybody makes their payments on times and setting up the tech end of new programs and contracts. Like I don't know anybody that I've experienced in the realm of like soul inspired entrepreneurship in the coaching and healing worlds where people are just like, yes, I'm so passionate about the business stuff. It's like, no, I tolerate the business stuff because that's what I need to actually do the work I really want to be doing. And so this means that we're not usually paying that much attention to the stuff happening on the back end of our business, or we're only paying attention where we need to, right? So like when something comes up, we're like, oh crap, how am I going to deal with this? And then we deal with it and we move on. And that might happen again in a week, a month, or a year. But the next time it comes around, it's like, okay, how am I going to deal with this again? Because we don't have a lot of systems. We don't have a lot of processes. We're just kind of fielding things as we come because we're mostly just trying to do as little of that kind of stuff as possible and only where necessary. And something I noticed is that typically when you're going from like the beginning of your business up to like 6 figures per year, in that space, it's really easy to just kind of wing things in your back end, to not really know what you're doing, to just do it really messy, like get done what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Oh, we need to fix this. Great. We'll make a new link. Oh, great. We'll make an edit. Oh, great. We'll fix the contract. Oh, great. We'll just handwrite an email really quick and take care of that thing. But once you get to six figures, moving beyond that, it's really essential that you have actual things in place. Otherwise, it tends to get really overwhelming. And a couple of years ago, back like after like the booming explosion of the coaching industry that happened around like 2020, 2021 during COVID, when people had lots of extra income because, you know, we had like government money and stipends and things like that coming, coaching really exploded. And there was this kind of culture that like I was really fed a lot, and a lot of my friends and colleagues who have like multi-six and seven figure businesses, of like hire early and like hire fast. So it was like hire before you're ready and always have like more support than you really need, because you never want to be left without support. And so that resulted in a lot of coaches who have no idea what's going on in the back end of their business because it's been completely outsourced. And like if their OBM or their VA is sick, then like their business can't properly run because they don't even know what their people are doing half the time. And also their overhead is ridiculous. At one point, I was paying $3,000 a month for a coach. I was paying $2,500 a month for an OBM. I was paying $1,500 a month for a VA. I was paying another couple hundred for like a podcast person. I had this huge overhead. So like I was literally having to make $10,000 a month just to pay my payroll and take care of my overhead. OBM stands for Online Business Manager. And so I was having to make like 10 grand a month just to pay everybody before I was even able to like take money home. Because then on top of all of those salaries that I was paying, right, I was paying like 8 grand in salaries out to team. I also had thousands of dollars in like how much I had to pay for all of my systems, for my payment processors, like all of this. And it became such a heavy weight every day to be like, I need to make the money so I can pay the people. Like I have payroll to make. I have people who are depending on me to pay for them. And it was like, and then it was all complicated. I'd have to sit down with my coach and we'd have to like talk about like what was going on with me. We'd have to troubleshoot like my mindset and all of my energetic stuff. Plus then we'd be like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What's the big picture? Then I'd have to take that conversation. I'd have to get on my weekly meeting with my OBM and I'd have to be like, okay, so this is what me and my coach talked about. And this is the direction we're going in. And she's like, great. Well, like, let's come up with a plan to like make that all happen. Right. So then me and my OBM would come up with the plan and we'd make the plan happen. And then we'd have to take the conversation we had with the OBM about what the plan is, and we'd have to take that to like the tech VAs and everybody else on the team and be like, okay, now here are the things you need to do to implement this to make this happen, right? And like and it was just so complicated. And before I knew it, I was really sitting in a position of CEO where I was spending more of my time managing the business and all the people in my business than I was actually doing the work that I wanted to do, helping people. And so it was like, I went from like this fully messy, winging it, like, like just kind of like doing things as they come up, to like having no support, to being like super kind of like over supported in a way that like neither felt good. And so in 2022, I made the decision that I was going to make some shifts, and I spent all of 2023 coming back to like this middle place where it was like, okay, I get to be supported. I get to feel like I know what's going on in my business. I get to feel like I know how to run my business fully without having to really think about it all of the time, right? I know that like when X happens, we do Y. When Z happens, we do B, right? Like I need to feel like I know what's going on. I'm super supported. I have a pulse on what's happening in my business at all points. I'm not depending on anybody else, like to show up for any of the things. Like I have control, and like it's simple and manageable. Like I want to feel like I'm back in control of my business, because on either end of the spectrum, with like no support or all of the support, I really didn't feel in control of my business, like the business part of my business. And then that was leaking into my ability to show, because I wasn't in control, I also felt like I was doing way more back end cleanup all of the time, or management, than I was actually like in my zone of genius helping people. And that's what I was really passionate about, was helping women, particularly women and queer folks, to become financially stable and thrive in a world that's not meant for us to thrive financially, a world that's not built for us to be mothers and workers, right? A world that's like really just set up for us to fail, helping us to thrive in a society that's set up for us to struggle and to not be able to manage everybody and everything all the time, particularly as a single mom who, you know, has 3 kids and homeschools and is solely responsible for all of my bills. I get not 1 cent from anything that's not my business, right? Like if I don't do it, it's not coming. And so like I'm basically like doomed to fail if you look at my situation on paper, and helping women who are doomed to fail and like set up to struggle, giving them sustainable, stable success. Yes, Bethany is so sexy. And like, that's what gets me excited, is like seeing a mom be like, I finally get to like support my family and stay at home. I get to do it doing something that I love and that I'm obsessed with, helping people, not just like, you know, packing up boxes in a warehouse or like checking people out at the grocery store, right? Not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but I know that so much of us want something different. And so helping people step outside of those boxes was my passion. And I ran into this problem where, you know, my support was too expensive or it was too messy. And I know that one of my skill sets is actually business and administration. And something I was noticing is that for all of the people out there calling themselves like business coaches, they weren't actually doing a lot of actual business stuff. It was like everyone was branded as a business coach, but once you paid, you were getting mostly mindset work and not a lot of actual business help. Like I was paying $3,000 a month, and I couldn't have gotten that woman to like look at my copy and tell me where my messaging was wrong that was not making people convert for the life of me. Right? Because it was like, oh no, that's not what I do. But if I wanted to talk about how I was struggling with imposter syndrome, she would have sat with me all day. And it was like, no, I need somebody who can like get in my business and say, this is what's not working. This is where it's overcomplicated. You're wasting money here. And there just didn't seem to be anybody doing this. And so I ended up hiring 1 million people and paying you know, in 1 year, I think in 2021, I spent over $100,000 on support just in 1 year. And at the end, I was like, am I really any better for it? And I don't feel like, I mean, I never regret, and I stand by all the decisions I made because it's a learning process, but I definitely could have had better dialed in support. And so that's what I want to give you today. So I'm going to dive us into the 5-step slow business back end reboot. And this is 5 easy steps that you can do by yourself with your team if you have team, or you know, you can hire somebody in to help you with all of this. And this is really like the most dialed in and simplified way to go through and figure out how do you run a better business on the business end of your business. And so this is meant to save you both time, or like time, energy, and money, right? It's meant to help you maximize the support team that you are hiring, also maximize your own time, and to know when it's time to hire out for things and when it's time to just like suck it up and do it yourself to save the dollars, right? Because like sometimes hiring out is the move. Sometimes doing it yourself is the move. You have to know your own skill sets, your own gaps in your skill sets, and also like what your bandwidth is for things. So that's why the very first step 1 in the slow business backend reboot, is identify. The very first thing we have to do is like look at what's happening in your business. Like you really have to look and think to yourself, like in the simplest terms, like asking yourself questions like, what's really working for me right now? And what's not working for me right now? Right? Where are the places where I'm like, yeah, I got this. This is not a big deal. Everything's great. And where are the pieces where you're like, maybe I could use a little bit of help with that? Or like, I've got this handled, but I hate it. Or I've got this handled, but not in a way that actually feels good. And so if it's working for you, that means that whatever that piece is that's working for you, right? Whether that's a strategy, whether that's like a system, a payment processor, an employee, a process of, you know, like your social media, your content, anything, when we're looking at anything in your business, to clarify whether it's working or not. If it's working, it means that what you're doing is accomplishing a goal that moves the needle in your business. So it's supporting you in growing and sustaining your business. It's bringing in money, it's bringing in brand awareness, right? Like it has a function that it is accomplishing, and you are happy with the processes and the ways that it's happening. Right? So like, let's say your content, if your content is working, that means you currently love and enjoy the process you have to make content, and it is working to convert clients and help you make sales. Right? If it's either not effective or it's not something you enjoy and feel good about, then it's not working. Because working isn't one or the other. And this is where a lot of people fall into problems in this piece of their business, is that they'll do something the way that they love it, but it's not working, but they really like it and enjoy it. So they just keep doing it, even though it's not working. Or they find the way to do something that works, but they kind of secretly hate it or resent it. And so, but they keep doing it. And so then they're not happy, even though but they feel stuck because it yields the result. So they feel stuck in being able to change anything, because like, well, it's getting me the result. So like, what does it matter? And my goal always in any business that I'm working in is that I want it to be effective, but I also want you to enjoy it. Like, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be your favorite piece of your business. It has to be like the best thing you've ever done, and that you wake up in the morning being like, I can't wait to send emails to people whose payments bounced. Like, you don't have to like love every piece of your business, but it should be something that you don't avoid, like resent, or like have like the big ick about it. It should be something that is neutral or better, right? And so if it's not neutral or better, or it's not actually effective in accomplishing the goal that piece of your business, and if you don't know what the goal is, then you need to look at, why am I doing this? If I don't know what the purpose of this thing is, why am I doing it? Because you would be shocked at how many businesses I get in the back end of, and I'm like, why are we even doing this? Like, who told you? And like, some coach told them 3 years ago that that was what needed to be done. They never questioned it because they were paying this person a lot of money to help them. So they started doing something, but really it was like unnecessary. And so that's where we get to step 2 in the reboot, which is simplify. So step 1 is identify. Step 2 is simplify. You really have to look at and ask yourself, like, what is the purpose of me doing this? Why am I doing this? What is the purpose? Is it accomplishing that? If you don't know what the purpose of something is in your business, if you don't know the end game of like why you're doing something, then we need to talk about why you're doing it. We need to talk about, like, do you need clarity on what the purpose is? Or like, is this something unnecessary that just needs to go? Where I see this become most prevalent is in the way that people use their social media. Is, again, we're going back to like being not really intentional necessarily, and just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So people are just spending their whole lives living online, thinking that like if they network and they post and they comment, that like somehow that's all going to add up to sales. But so it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing tons of promotion, I'm doing tons of networking, I'm doing tons of content. But if it's not with a purpose, then you're essentially wasting your time. And so sometimes it's like you're doing kind of like you're in the right realm of where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing, but like there's not enough purpose. And so it just ends up falling completely flat. You end up like dumping water in the ground, right? Instead of like pouring it into a vessel that can hold it and be effective, right? I'm not going to like turn a hose on and just like let it spray on the ground. That's going to be no good to anybody. But if I like pour it into my pots, then I can like take it and like water the garden, right? And so we want to make sure everything has a purpose, and that when we simplify our business, we need to like trim the fat, get back down to basics. Like, what is the bare minimum? I believe that the back end of your business on most days should take an hour or less to run. So you should be spending the majority of your time on your calls, doing the things that you need to be doing, like with your clients, like doing your actual sole purpose work, and all the business stuff, an hour or less on most days. Now, obviously, there might be an occasion where you're doing a lot of work on like hard sales copy or like website, like, overhauls, things like that, where you can have like projects that are a little bit bigger, but like the general day-to-day business stuff should not be taking you probably more than an hour. And people waste a lot of money just doing random shit in the back end of their business that has like no real purpose. And so getting down to like the bare minimums and then building from there, I find that kind of like wiping the slate clean and being like, okay, like, let's start from nothing and ask ourselves, like, what are the most, and this is where the CEO daily checklist is going to come in, is I'm going to take you back to the bare minimum. That is going to give you the very basic, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. The basic, like, do this every day and you will see, if you do nothing else and you only do this stuff in your back end every day that's on the daily checklist, you will see results. You will see growth. You will see more conversion, more clients, more growth in your social media and your marketing if you just do that stuff every day. And it's incredibly simple and fast. And so taking it back to basics, like, don't be afraid to question everything, which is where we go into step 3 of the Slow Business Backend Reboot, which is demystify. It is so easy and so tempting to just dissociate from all the hard business stuff, because the back end of the business is where all the shit we don't want to worry about happens, right? All of the icky things happen in the back end. All the really awesome things happen on the front end. When your clients have a breakthrough, when they get a win, when they, when you get to like celebrate that they accomplish their goals, all of that great stuff happens on the front end. And what happens on the back end, right? You have to worry about payments bouncing. You have to worry about taxes. You have to worry about bookkeeping. You have to worry about your expenses. You have to worry about like what you do when a client is unhappy. You have to worry about rupture. You have to worry about all of this stuff that, like, while there's a lot of fun things that happen in the back end too, and a lot of creativity that can happen, like copywriting and content creation and social media and like all of that kind of stuff, which can be really fun. Usually it's like all the icky pieces live in the back end. And so it's really, really common for people to just completely dissociate from the back end and just like not pay attention at all. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it. I'm only going to pay attention if I have to. I'm going to keep my eyes off of it. And so the more you actually understand what's going on and where everybody's at, what is going on with your payment processors, how does that work? What does happen when something kind of like goes awry? Knowing all of your numbers, knowing what you have in monthly recurring revenue, knowing what you need in order to like keep your business floating every month, knowing like how your, what your expenses are, what is your minimum monthly income, what happens in what case, what are your policies with your clients. So when what's your pricing? Shocking how many people like don't have standard pricing. And every time somebody asks them what, how to work with them, they just kind of like make it up on the fly, because people like to, at different levels, dissociate. And another way you can dissociate is just by hiring it all out and then again paying no attention. But what happens when, like, I had a period where in my business, when my OBM had a sudden death in the family. And so she needed time off to go take care of that. And at the same time, my VA got COVID. And so I had this big team that was managing everything. And then all of a sudden, one day, nobody was there. And so if I had been completely dissociated from my business and just letting them like do their jobs and take over, and I didn't have a good understanding of what was going on in my business on the day-to-day and what everybody's job was and what everyone was doing, I could have been left in a lurch, but it was actually pretty easy for me to like step in for that time, give them the space that they needed, just as I would want if I had a death in the family or I got sick and I needed a couple weeks off, right? I would expect my people to understand that and like let me be. And I was able to be a really understanding person and like give them the time off that they needed and not bother them because I knew what was going on in my business. And so we have to be willing to actually look and pay attention and be a part of the process of knowing what's happening, whether we're doing it, whether we're outsourcing it. But the more like intimate you can be with some of those ickier pieces that we don't like, then the more prepared you are and the more comfortable you can feel. And it actually really helps in outsourcing when everything that somebody's doing isn't going over your head and you understand what their processes are, because it helps you to build long-term sustainability, because you know what is the lead time in your business between having an idea about an offer you want to make and actually getting that offer out to market. What does that require? What does that require of who? Is that something you do by yourself? Is that something you do with a team? How long does it take to write copy? How long does it take to get that copy up on a sales page? How long do you need to make links and like do things? Do you do turn on event? Like, do you do like free events and workshops to promote things? Like, what is your process? Having a process and knowing what the step is to get from point A to point B at anywhere in your business, right? If you have nobody and a payment gets missed by a client, are you just like randomly like sending them messages wherever you can hunt them down on the internet, being like, somebody please pay me? Or do you have a process for that? What happens when they ignore you, right? And because if you don't have a process for stuff like that, then you're riding the emotional wave, right? If you don't have a process for getting an offer from idea out to market, if you don't have a process for what happens when somebody misses a payment, if you don't have a process for these things in your business, what happens is that it all becomes dependent on how you feel in the moment. And so if you're feeling creative, you might bust something out really quick. If you're not feeling creative, that offer might live in idea land for forever. If you don't have like a step-by-step, like, okay, how do I get this? If you have, if you don't have a process for like payments being missed, then it's like, it might depend on how bad you need the money, how hard you lobby to get it or whatever, right? Which like, that's not how we want to treat our clients. That's not what we don't want our clients to like be subject to like our personal emotions in the moment as to how we're going to deal with something. Somebody needs a refund, right? I just saw this big hullabaloo on the internet about somebody who paid in full for a 12-month coaching program and 2 months in got seriously ill and needed to pull out of the coaching program and asked for a prorated refund for the 10 months of services that they didn't use. If you don't have policies and you don't have processes around these things, this became a huge thing that everyone was talking about and debating on the internet. And I could tell who had systems in place for these kinds of things and who doesn't by their answers, right? And we don't want our clients who are in these positions sometimes to be subject to our emotionality about a problem, right? Or about a situation. We want to make sure that no matter what's happening with us, our clients receive the same standard of care that we promise them in our contracts, in our work with each other. And so it protects us and it protects them. And Bethany, very good point. And it helps us from decision fatigue. This is something as a single mom I deal with all of the time. And I think that this is why I bent into like slow business, the 10-hour work week. Like this is my jam, is because just my baseline day, I have to make decisions for everybody all of the time. I need to decide what to eat 700 times a day for all of the humans. I need to, I am figuring out like how to run the household. I'm making sure everybody's getting to dance practice in home. I'm making sure everybody's schoolwork is done, and I'm running a business. And like my love language, I always say, is like having a decision made for me. Like if you really want to woo me in a romantic way, like send me a text that says, be at this place at this time and wear this, and this is your dress code, or like I left you a dress. Like that would be the biggest turn on for me in a romantic relationship. It's like, don't text me and say like, what are you thinking you want to do tonight? What time works good for you? Where do you want to go? No, I make 30,000 decisions a day. You just tell me what to do. And so in a business, obviously, as the CEO, the owner, the founder, like the head of my business, I'm the one to make the decision. So anywhere where I can mitigate decisions or I can make the decision once, and then my only job is to execute the process or the procedure, is so calming for the nervous system. And so we have to really have an understanding of what happens within the business part. And so we really need to like resist the attempt to dissociate and really get our hands dirty and look at it so we can have a really good understanding and figure out like how we can make it the most nourishing for ourselves to hold all of it, because it's a lot to hold, because you are holding not only your business, right? And all of this stuff, but you're also holding your clients. You're also holding your finances. You're also holding your household. You're also holding your partner if you have one. You're also holding your children if you have them. You're also holding other family members and friends and like their things and all the things going on in your personal life and how much toilet paper is in the house, right? If I ask you all, you can all probably tell me how many rolls of toilet paper is in your house right now, right? Because we're holding this stuff all of the time. So the more we can make it feel like good to hold our business, especially the stickier parts on the back end, the better we're going to show up, and the more bandwidth and availability it's going to give us to show up on the front end, to do things like content creation, to do things like offer creation, to do things like being with our clients and being expansive and giving for free. Because I know so many of us do this. Yes, we want to be paid well, but also we do it because we want to help. And so most of us want some sort of balance where we can like give a lot for free and also get paid really well and do both. So then the fourth step is to codify it. Once you have identified, you've simplified, you've demystified, you know it all, then it's like, you got to make the standard processes. And most people don't think that SOPs are hot. I do. I'm turned on. I know Bethany for sure will agree. SOPs are sexy. Again, I love a good, like, you tell me do like XYZ and I'm like, I'm there. I can handle that. I can do that. And so especially if it's a process or a procedure that has been created by me with or without a team or a consultant or a coach to serve me, right? And it's been when my policies and procedures have been made to make my life easier, to match my flow, to match my energy, to match my skill sets, then it just gets that much better, because it's like, oh, I've got this. I already thought and made this decision. I don't have to make this decision again. And that can be so, so soothing. And so putting those in place, writing the email sequence once, like, right? Like if a client approaches me about this, like, or this happens, like this is the email that gets sent first, then this email gets sent this many days later, then this email gets sent so many days later, right? It sounds totally boring. Yes, but it feels so good. And it's really actually some of the most boring work that actually is the work that stabilizes us, grounds us, and supports us. We want to be up in the front, healing the world, saving the humans, right? Giving them our work, preaching the sermons, collecting the money while we're doing our great big work in the world, and we're helping people heal and grow. And we're, like, we want to be out in front doing all the great things, but it's actually all of the like not so sexy back end pieces that are going to make that front end stuff feel that much better, that much easier, are going to give you more bandwidth and energy to focus on that kind of stuff, because you're going to feel grounded, you're going to feel stable, and it's also going to help stabilize your income. And that's what's so important, is that when you have a sense of safety in the back end of your business, it helps grow and stabilize your income that much faster, because again, you get to focus on what you're doing to grow on the front end, because you're not constantly scrambling to make random things happen on the back end. And so the way you stay more in the front of your business doing the thing you love is by having a really simple and streamlined back end where everything is just like codified, what like you have like your little business handbook, right? That says like when X happens, we do Y. When they zig, we zag, right? Like this is the way my business runs. And whether I'm doing it, whether I have a tech VA doing it, whether I have an OBM supporting me, right? Then like this is where we're going and everybody's on the same page, no questions asked. And just like having all of that stuff figured out and going through kind of piece by piece by piece and adding it to it every time, because as you grow, new things will come up with clients, right? Like for a lot of people, like the day that somebody would pay in full for a 12-month program and then ask for, a large majority of that back, like that person I had told you about that I read on the internet, for a lot of people, that stuff is not happening till like 5 years in their business, because getting, 5-figure pay in fulls is something that they like work their way up to. And like, you might not realize that you need a process for that until you get there. And then you're like, oh crap. So then instead of thinking like, how are we going to deal with this on the fly just to fix it really quick, it brings it to a space where then you're thinking, okay, what do I want my process to be about this? And so we actually want to shift the way that you think about making decisions in your business to not, how can I put this fire out once, or how can I deal with this today, but rather, how do I want to be dealing with this as a business? Right? What do I want my business's process or policy around this to be? So that way you can like make that decision once. And so instead of dealing with everything that happens on the back end of your business as a one-off thing, assume that anytime something comes up in your business, assume that it's going to come up again. Right? We always have that time. I think I was like 3 years into my business before my first person missed a payment on their payment plan. That just like never happened to me. I was so lucky for so many years. Everybody just made their payments on time. Their cards went through. It was really beautiful. And then one day it was like, the payment failed, right? And I was just like, oh, no big deal. This never happens to me. And it actually wasn't until like I was probably like 5 years into my business when payment failure became like a more common thing. Because now instead of working with like, 15 clients a year, I was working with hundreds of clients a year. And that became more prevalent, that I was like, oh, wait, I actually need a process around this because it's overwhelming. And now I feel like a creditor, and I don't want to feel like a creditor in my business, right? Like that. I was like, no, this was not the job I signed up for. I did not sign up to chase people down for money. And without a process, that's what it felt like, because I was just winging it, handwriting messages and DMs and things. And so you can easily, without process, get like, when you're one-offing everything all the time, it's like your job description can very suddenly veer into a weird direction. And so when it's so much easier to just like think to yourself, not like, how do I deal with this one thing with this one person now, but rather, how does my business's ethos and my values inform the way that I want to deal with this across the board, not just today, but when or if this situation happens in the future, when this thing comes up again. And so it's really shifting out of like messy solopreneur and moving your head more into a leadership position where you're really thinking about like, from the soul of my business, what is the action or the process or the way to deal with this that I can come from in a way that feels aligned with who I am and what my business stands for. And then how do we codify that? How do we get it on the books so that way we can make sure it's happening the same over and over again? And yes, Bethany, so many good things happening in the comments here. That yes, exactly. It gets to be a living document. New things will always happen. Things will always change. You will change. We can always change things up. But some of the things that happen on the back end, like I said, are some of like the less fun things, the things we don't want to deal with, which is why we dissociate and why we ignore and why we just try and like patch things up. But when you can really, especially have somebody come in and go through things that they know are bound to happen, as well as the things that are currently happening in your business, when you can make the decisions on those policies and procedures from a really grounded, regulated place and not the activated place of like, oh, wait, I was expecting Sally's $1,200 payment to go through. And now it just bounced and crap because I needed that to pay my car bill tomorrow or whatever, right? If that is like the energy you're playing in, it's going to be really hard to make decisions when you're feeling shocked because the money didn't go through, or because the money did go through because something, or, there's a problem with the client, or your tech isn't working correctly, right? Oh my gosh, if I can't tell you how many times I've had people like crying in my Voxer because their tech isn't working for them and they don't have processes around how to deal with like funky tech, which is like just a thing, and it throws them off, and then they're dysregulated because they have a free event come workshop and like their Zoom isn't working. And so now they're just in meltdown. It's like, if you think about problems before they happen and you pre-solve for things, my biggest secret in business, I think, is pre-solve for the problem. Like, you don't necessarily need to be all doom and gloom and like go super deep and dark with it, but like, we can usually anticipate problems before they come. And the more things you can kind of pre-solve and know exactly how you'll deal with them before they come up, that means your nervous system can rest, so you don't have to be afraid. So you won't self-sabotage around that thing, right? Because that's actually super common. People know, let's say, for example, you make a lot of money, which means now you have to pay more taxes, right? And that freaks people out. Nobody likes to pay taxes, right? Especially if like your taxes are going to like bombing other countries and things like that. Like that doesn't sound like more fun. And so we self-sabotage because we don't like, the taxes scares us. Handling all the tax stuff scares us. And so then we sabotage so that we don't make more money because we don't want to break into that next tax bracket because the tax thing scares us, for example. But if you like sought out and knew you had like an accountant or a bookkeeper on speed dial in your Rolodex, so that when you cross that income threshold and taxes start to become scary for you because it's no longer just like 1099 from Stripe and like, like a simple form that you can do for yourself, then like, if you know who you want to hire before you need them, so that when that time comes, all you have to do is make the phone call and be like, I'm ready for the bookkeeper now. I'm ready for the accountant now, right? Then you don't have to self-sabotage because your nervous system and your body feel safe to go to that next place. And so by pre-solving and like being proactive in what kind of things are intimidating you or scaring you, and then coming up with the processes and the solutions before they're even a problem, that actually expands your capacity to grow in business, in impact, in visibility, in revenue, because you're like looking at what are potentially the things that are holding me back because I'm worried about what I'll do when I get there. And can I just solve that problem now so that way I don't have to worry anymore? So that's the kind of stuff we're going to do to make sure we have processes for everything. And then the fifth step in the reboot is to amplify. And this is just where you watch your business grow, you soar, while you're focusing on your zone of genius without getting bogged down by a million business decisions that you have to make every day, without having to figure out like how you're going to communicate to team every time something happens because nobody knows what's going on. Like, if you have team, everybody's got the handbook and they know what to do. If you don't have team, you know what to do. It's all very streamlined and it's all simplified. And that's where you really got to put yourself back in the position of doing what you love. Right? I mean, if you want to be a CEO and you want to just like run shit for teams and stuff, like that's great. And that is maybe a different conversation. Most of you who are here, I think you're not here because you love business, because you love team management, because you love, right? You love the CEO piece necessarily. Like, you love what you do. You love helping people. And so we want to keep you like in your body, in your soul, doing that work and out of your head. Now, for me, I spent years perfecting this, and now I've walked into this season where like, I'm like, no, get me out of my soul and get me into my head. Because, right? Which, for a lot of you guys know, my mom passed away at the beginning of the year, and like, it's just been a really heavy season for me. And so for me, I've actually been focusing more on the clients that I have that have me doing like social media management and back end stuff, which I've always kind of like been doing in the background, right? Like my clients that have worked with me, some of them are here, know that like you can actually hire me for copywriting. You can hire me to like edit and run your TikTok account. Like I do a lot of things behind the scenes that I don't really advertise up in the front of my business, where I talk more about my coaching publicly. I do a lot of back end work and done for you work, like secretly in the back. And in this season, I'm actually wanting to bring a lot of this back end work kind of forward, because being in my head feels really good right now, because I'm doing a lot of deep stuff in my soul and my soul feels really tender. And I mean, one of me and my clients were talking about this today, like something that I have wished consistently for probably about 5 years in my business now is that I didn't have to have a team of like 7 people helping me in my business. I'm like, why can't I just hire like one person who can do all of the things, right? Like one person who's like my right hand woman, who's in my business, who can like hold me through the emotional ups and downs and the energetic swings, who can talk to me about like why I feel like shit this week. Oh, that's right. I started my period an hour ago. Now everything makes sense, right? To like, I need to take a couple days off, to like, I'm having this new idea, to like, can we write the copy, to shit, this thing is happening weird. Like, how do we fix that? Like, I wish that there was just one person or like less people, that we could combine some of these roles, because it's expensive to have a lot of people on your team. It's time consuming because then you have to have like a call with every single person on your team, like every week. And it was a whole thing. And so in this season, I'm like, you know what? I've been doing all of the things, but I've never sold all of the things in one package before. I've been a coach. I've been a social media manager. I've been a copywriter. I've functioned as people's OBMs before. Like I've done all of these things secretly, and I've never really advertised it before. And so was born the Slow Business Back End, where you can actually currently, for a potentially limited time, but definitely a limited amount of people, I'm probably only going to take maybe like 3 clients on for back end work, where you can hire me for one price and I will function as a business coach. I will function as an OBM. We'll do implementation work. I've got a couple different tiers. So it depends on like how much support you need with like social media. Like, do you want somebody to like edit your, if you just send me a whole bunch of random videos of shit you recorded, do you want me to edit them and make sense of them and put hooks on them and, like type copy for them and put them on a TikTok or a Reels or things like that? How much copy do you need help with? Do you like copy editing? Do you need full copy writing, content creation ideas, all of that kind of stuff? So it's really about holistic business support, where it's like one person who really is coming in completely dedicated to you and your business growth on every level, and isn't just going to be like, imposter syndrome is hard, you should go take a bath about that, right? Like, and then like take your 5K and like tell you to go take a bath about it and like leave you, while then you have to go to like another person that you're paying another couple $1,000s for to actually figure out like what the copy is going to be for your new offer and what your pricing should be and all of that. And then find the other person you're paying another couple thousand to actually like make the link for your payment plans and all of that. So like one person who can come in really hands-on and do all of the things and help build your business alongside of you for 6 months, with the intention being that like, if we love it, like we can talk about long-term, but also if you just want to have somebody come in for 6 months, have you get everything together and then like get out and leave you in a place where you feel I can sustain this, or I can sustain this with one VA that I pay $15 an hour. Like, that's the thing. I want you to be running your business as big or as little as you want to be running it, with as much or as little team. And I want you to feel fully equipped to do that, whether you want no team and you like being a solopreneur, but you just need to like clean it up and get it together so that you feel good about how you're running your business by yourself, or whether you just want a minimal team, but actually keeping it simple so that no matter what, like, what's going on. you've got the support you need. You can grow into different places like short form video that maybe you just felt like you haven't had the bandwidth to really focus on. I know that's a huge thing for a lot of people right now. They want to get on TikTok, they want to get in reels, they want to start going viral, but like they just don't have capacity. And Kim put in the comments, she'll tell you, we can totally make that happen for you. Kim and I love going viral together on TikTok. And she like really doesn't have to do much of anything. I kind of do the entire thing for her. And when all like the trolls come into the comments and like have things to say, as they tend to do, like she doesn't even know unless I tell her, because they're funny comments. And so there's like a whole wide range. But I did promise you, so if you want to talk about that, if you are looking to bring somebody in and help you clean everything up, get really simplified, support you in a really holistic way where it's like just one point person that you get to go through for everything, send me a message. You can send me a message here in the chat and I will get with you after, or you can DM me on social media and we can talk about what that will look like in the variety of different options. Price wise, it's about the same as hiring a regular OBM who's not going to do half the stuff that I would do, or like one social media manager, or like one coach where like I'm offering to do like all the jobs for the same price as everyone charges for like individual jobs that you would need 3+ people for. Because it was important to me that it felt like really valuable to you too. But I'm going to share my favorite. This is my favorite thing. I told you earlier that if you spend 1 hour behind the scenes in your business, on the back end of your business every day, you can be done in 1 hour or less outside of your zone of genius work. And this is how, because I'm going to teach you the 4 questions you need to ask yourself every day. And then the 4 things you need to do every day. This is going to be a PDF that gets sent to you in the email with the replay of this, but I will share it to you here. Can y'all see the Simple CEO checklist? Yeah, great. So the first question we're going to ask ourselves is, what do I need today? That is a personal question for you. You might need rest. You might need to go for a run. You might need to take a nap. You might need to like eat a meal sitting down. You might need like a variety of different things, right? But like, what do I need personally on a human level? The second question is, what does my business need today? So like, what is going on in your business? Are there things that you have? Do you have copy you need to write? Do you have content you need to put out? Do you have emails that need to be sent? Do you have things that need to be done? And then the third question is, what are my responsibilities today? So that's kind of like outside of both of those questions. Like if your kids need to be taken to practice, picked up from school, if you have a doctor's appointment, right? Like if you have things on your calendar, if you have client calls, any of that kind of stuff, right? Like what am I glued into today? And then the question we always want to ask after we kind of like get the lay of the land of like what the day is and what it holds and what we wish it could hold is like, how do we make this a win-win-win? How does everything that's on the calendar get done? How does my business get what I need? And how do I get what I need? And is there a way that like we can all make it happen? So like if I have calls at this time and I have to do this thing at this time, but I do have an hour and a half here that I could get that nap in for 45 minutes. Like, can we make everybody win? Or I have an hour here and I'm going to, instead of like trying to catch up and clean the house during that hour or do the dishes, I'm going to lay in bed and I'm going to watch The Real Housewives, right? Like, how do I give myself what I need, give my business what it needs, and like take care of just my life responsibilities? And generally, more often than not, there's a way that I can make all of these things happen. Everybody can get what they need on most days. And on some days, it's like the business actually doesn't need very much. And so what I need is to like fuck off and like not worry about it. And so sometimes that happens, or sometimes it's actually like, actually, I'm feeling really good today. So I'm going to give my business more of what I need, right? Because it's like a give and take. Some days you'll need more. Sometimes your business will need more, and like learning how to balance, and sometimes life will need more. And so like learning how to balance all of that and figure out like, what's the way that on most days, everybody and everything can win is really important. And it really just takes conscious effort. Right? It's usually not that hard. It's just about being conscious about your time and your energy. And then the 4 things you need to do every day in your business, these should be non-negotiable if you're growing, especially if you're still in a place like, if you're like moving towards 6 figures, like, and you're still growing, is how am I caring for my clients today? Obviously, anybody who's paying for us is paying us is top priority to take care of the clients we already have on our roster. How am I nurturing my audience? So the people who are already here, hanging out in my spaces, following my Instagram, on my TikTok, right? In my Facebook, like how on my email list, how am I nurturing them? What am I giving them away? What am I giving them for free today so that they've had an encounter with me that leaves them better than before they had that encounter with me, right? Even if it's just like reading a post or something, like what's one thing I can give my people today that leaves them better than they woke up this morning? And then the third is how am I attracting new audience? So we're going to nurture our audience, but we have to figure out how we're bringing in new audience. So is that short form video and, like trying to get on people's FYPs? Is that offering something for free? Is that networking? Is that in Facebook groups? Is that using hashtags? Like, what am I doing to get new people in? And then how am I offering my work? Every day we should be swinging that bat. Every day that business should be open, right? And when I say every day, I don't mean like 365 days a year. In fact, if you are doing it 365 days a year, I'll probably yell at you because I am an advocate for taking days off. I am an advocate for taking vacations, everything like that. And so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what days are you open? My business is open on Mondays, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. I work 4 days a week. I do not work on Tuesdays because I have other things that take priority on that day with my kids and my family. So Tuesdays are an off day for me. So I have my 4 days a week. So for you, part of that is figuring out what are the days that my business is open. And on the days your business isn't open, don't be open. Like, no, like the business, if I go to like the local ice cream shop, if I go to the local ice cream shop and they're closed on Sundays, if I go on Sunday and I knock on the door or I call their phone, guess what? They're not going to answer. They're not going to come open the door. They're closed. But most of us are like, oh, I don't work weekends. But then somebody sends us a DM and we're like, oh, hi, yeah, I'm here. No, like you're closed. And I'm a firm believer on like, when you're open, be open, show up, do the things, follow the checklist, do your work. And when you're closed, be closed. Take your time off, go be with your family, go lay in bed and watch Bravo, go on a vacation, go for a walk on the beach, right? Like you do you. And so like when you're working, work, when you're not working, don't work. And again, this all comes to like, you're more regulated, you're more rested, so you show up better. I'd rather have you show up really well 3 days a week and take 4 days off if that's what you need, than show up half-assed 7 days a week, right? And so again, like that's part of your processes are what is my unique workflow? What hours do I like to work? I don't work in the evenings, right? Like that's when I'm with my kids. That's when I'm with my family. So like, I'm not working in the evenings. I'm not working on the weekends, things like that. And knowing my own unique, I'm also like not working before 10 a.m. very rarely. Any of my clients to tell you, like my first Voxer of the day is like 1 p.m. And I'm like, hey, good morning. I'm finally alive. But like knowing your own workflow and what you need allows you to be more energized, more grounded, more regulated to actually like do the work. And that makes it more sustainable long term too. So that like once you know like how you like things to be, when like what your workflow is, what all your processes are, what needs to happen in your business every day to be like moving the needle without all of the junk that isn't moving the needle, then it's like your business gets to be so easy. You just get to like show up, do the thing you love, do a little bit of this other stuff that maybe you don't love as much, but is still important. And then like go be on your way. And that's how you end up with like a 10-hour work week. That's how you end up working 3 or 4 days a week instead of 7, right? Because that's the thing that happens to all of us. We're like, yes, I'm an entrepreneur, time freedom. Crap, I just traded my 9 to 5 for a 24/7, 365. That's no fun, right? Because then you're just like always on. And so by having all of these things in place, and it really starts with like paying attention to what is happening in the business end of your business, which like I said, I know is like the less sexy, less fun, less exciting piece of the work, but it makes the part of the work that you got into this for, that you're passionate about, that you love, It makes your impact and your income so much more easy to grow, so much more stable, and it will really keep you in the game long term. Because what I can tell you is that I've seen, I don't know if you all know who Hillary Rushford is, of Dean Street Society, huge 7-figure coaching business, had to shut down because her overhead was so out of control, it didn't even make sense to run the business anymore. She was frustrated. It was complicated. She wasn't even doing what she loved anymore because she was just running this huge ass business that was so expensive. It was so stressful. It was so complicated. So she shut it all down. I've seen it happen with people like her. I've also seen it happen with people who scale to like high 5-6 figures. They're making 70, 80, 90, 100, $150,000 a year. They have no idea what they're doing on the back end. It's complicated. They either are paying out the ass for team, or they have no team and they're winging it and they can't hold it together. They also end up out of the game because they burn out or their businesses collapse. And so like, if you want sustainability, if you want to be able to stay in the game for a long time, like having a well put together back end is going to increase sustainability and stability in your business, your income, your clients, because your clients will trust you more because they'll know that you've got them no matter what happens. They'll know that there's a process. They'll know that they can trust you because it's the same every time, which gives them, you know, more safety with you, which makes them come back. And it's a highly underrated thing to have a well put together and simple and easy and like nourishing back end. So hopefully the things we talked about today were helpful to you. You can take the checklist, you can take the reboot steps, and you can start implementing them if you want help and support in that. I am here. And like I said, I'm probably only taking like 3 people. And I think actually one of those spots is already claimed. And so I think probably I'll only have space for like 2 new people to come into this. And I mean, it's super affordable as far as I kind of think I'm stupid for the pricing I put on this, but it was what felt like it made the most sense. And if you guys know me, you know, I love a good pricing that feels super valuable. So yeah, DM me if you need help, but you'll get the replay and the checklist and everything in your emails. Does anybody have questions, things they want to talk about, questions about what's going on in your back end that I can help you troubleshoot right now? Thoughts, comments, anything at all? Open floor.
I would love to jump in and just say how much I love you, if that's okay.
Oh, of course you can.
I mean, Kelly and I go way back. I recognize a lot of familiar faces on this call. This is not like a beginner's conversation for me personally, but I am so passionate about how Kelly does her Kelly magic, and having worked with her, having her support, even though I know a lot of this stuff, has been invaluable. And don't sign up before me, but if there's a spot left, definitely I just wanted to encourage you guys to message her, because she won't high pressure you or steer you anywhere you don't need. I'm just such a raving fan of her, and I'm happy to voice that for whatever that might serve in this space. Thank you for the work you do, Kelly. I appreciate everything about you.
Thank you. And that's like no small compliment coming from Bethany, who's like an SOP backend queen as well. So thank you so much. Yeah. And I have plenty of people that I have worked with in the back end of their business. So if you need any I mean, there's some happening. Yeah, and they're intended to be like a little bit loose so that they can be a little bit more bespoke too, based on what you need. So any other questions, comments, thoughts? Coaching?
I do. I have a question.
Oh, hi.
How's it going?
Good.
This is Candace. I just have a question. Like, I feel like I've stepped away from my coaching business because I didn't have a team and I had no idea how to run my back end.
Yeah.
So what, other than the list that you just gave, which is very helpful, like where would you start with your content?
Like content for social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that list, like those 4 steps, those are always a pretty good guide, right? Because it's like those, especially like those last 3 questions of like, how am I bringing new people into this audience, right? So like, how am I growing the audience and making sure I have the right people there? And so just depending on like what your forte is, whether you prefer video, whether you prefer written, right? There has to be some sort of outreach to get people in. And even something like this, right? Like where you're hosting like a free event or a workshop or giving away a free journal or PDF, things like that can be really, really helpful in getting new people like onto the email list and getting people into, I used to have a Facebook group where I held all of the events like this in the Facebook group. So basically, if you wanted to come to a free event, you had to join my Facebook group. So that blew my Facebook group up really, really large, because I had all of my free stuff there and then it was all hosted there. So when you would join, you'd come into dozens of hours of like free trainings about everything on the face of the earth. And so it was valuable, even if I wasn't hosting something like currently live, for people to still come in. And so always being conscious of how you're bringing new people in and where you're getting new people from. The place we're loving the most right now is like TikTok and Reels, like viral content is, a great way to bring in new followers, as well as how are you nurturing them. So I know you came in a little bit late, so I don't know if you heard me say like, what is like one thing I can put on the internet so that if somebody encounters this piece, like they have a little bit more, like they're a little bit better than they were before they read it. And so making sure we're always like working on like tips and tricks and like support and inspiration, right? And you can go through a variety of different things. Like I usually like to focus on having like inspiration, education, right? As like 2 of my big pillars. So like I'm rotating, like showing people what's possible for them and inviting them into that, and then actually giving people like something that is educational that they can take and implement on their own, as well as like how are you inviting people to work with you every day. People need to know that the doors are open and that there's ways to step in, and that you don't just have an inspiration kink on Instagram for like making people feel good, but then like actually like there's a purpose and a way to step in. And so if you're just focusing on like those couple last questions in the checklist and you're gearing your content towards that, then like that's going to keep new people constantly coming in, new people getting nurtured, new people converting, and then caring for your clients. And so that's kind of what you base your content off of on any given day or week.
I think I stepped back because I am overwhelmed. I don't know exactly how to run something like a schedule. I have ADHD and I just felt like throwing it all in, like, and I wasn't making 7 figures like this. I can't believe she quit. Like,
Yeah, it really doesn't matter what your income is. If your expenses are too close to your overall revenue numbers, or if things are getting really big and complicated and you're not actually equipped to do that. I know Hillary Rushford like loved the money, obviously, and she loved helping all of those people, but I don't know that she ever started her business being like, you know what, I'm going to be the CEO of a 7-figure company. And like, she wasn't even really doing the work she wanted to do anymore. She was running a company, and like, that wasn't really where her heart was. And so it just didn't make sense anymore. And right, it's like we get into it because we want to do a certain thing. And then as it grows, it's really easy to end up creating a bad job for us, which is never what we set out to do in the first place. And so we have to make sure that the business part of the business is running correctly so that way we can stay in the zone of genius and we don't get sucked into being like these massive CEOs that we had no intention of ever being. That's not our zone of genius, not something we actually enjoy. And that can happen at any level of business. You can like kind of become the bottleneck, and it can just like, and expenses can get out of hand. I know people who had to shut down because their, $1,000 a month expenses are too much for them to handle. And I've seen other people shut down because, they have 6-figure a month expenses and it's too much. It can really happen at any income level. And it's one of the most common things that takes people out of the game.
I'm really looking forward to the replay and thank you for doing it. Just, I don't want to create a bad job for myself, like
Yeah.
Jennifer Lee put. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting it over, but I don't feel that I'm going to do it as good by myself. So I definitely am interested in learning more.
Yeah. Send me a message, DM, and we can talk about what that can look like. Thanks for coming. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today. If you have any follow-up questions or thoughts or just things you want to like pick my brain on, you can find me in the DMs on Facebook or Instagram, or you all have my email as well from signing up. So you can shoot me an email and just send me a message and we can talk about what it looks like to reboot the back end of your, I'd love to get in your back end. I promise there'd be at least one inappropriate back end pun. There you go. You got it. If you want me all up in your back end, give me a call. Thank you so much for spending the day with me. All your stuff will be emailed to you sometime in the next 24 hours. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. I hope today was helpful. And if nothing else, like I said at the beginning, we set the intention that you walked away with just like one thing. If you want to DM me the one thing you walked away with today, that you didn't have when you came in, the most valuable thing that you got out of today's class and workshop. If you DM that to me, I have a special gift for you. So if you want a little surprise and delight, send me a DM with the one thing that was the most valuable for you today. And I will be happy to give you a little present. Have an amazing rest of your Monday. I hope you have a beautiful, restful day post daylight savings for all of you in the States and everywhere else that observes. Get a nap in if you need one today. And I will see you all soon. Hopefully I will talk to you in the DMs. Have a good day.